Anybody want to lead it?
Ashke says she's been doing it all week in Shkunde. Kashke guk.
Ito agesiku. Oh, ganchish.
You don't want me to sing it, do you?
Oh,
Just lead it. Just lead us.
I said,
oh, okay. Dalkundehi na yakagachta ak teshkautin ko. Ja acapella yak yetieka quatitas jayaku kinkia.
I heard a cappella. I did something.
Teshkautin. Hasish kuhas you
Kuhaantí. Atuye yati.
Hayu
Kuhaantí.
kenasi
Owe. Kuhaantí.
Hashi kuhas you
Kuhaantí.
Hayu katangi kenasi Tatesawe Kuqapasti Hashish kuhas you Atuye Hayu katangi kenasi Tatesawe Kuqapasti Hashish kuhas you Hayu katangi
Natsini.
Tatesawe Kuqapasti Yewe yiti hayu katangil takatuhan. Yiguay khwan. Kana akh owe. Takana akh owe. Akakadin ayakakwata hayu katangi ganchish. Okay. All right. Wasa at kakwane ayidat yuhan. Yewe. Kwashi ideka kwanig wasa kakhlishi we ache ya Hawaiʻi aya hastu inye jekhonean hain hasakawani gadat we kleinach ache kwashakaka kwashi kwashak tuasagu utua achi kush yudu asago at Tlingit kleinach ʻŌlelo Hawaiʻi ko a piko. Kush aya gwash we hit chawush. Hit chawush ya ko a shukak we do a piko. True ya we hit kush kudzati. Tukt utat aya wush kanach has anna atch. Haqa away. Qone hasawashi. Hastu atshi. Lere kumura away a kaushashi. Teka. Haqa away hasach ewus. Hechwasa ge uti hayukatangi stu. Ye away. Just the cut has to schoon to nach aya. Udu ach we atche. Pico you do a sago at we wush kanachu to daadi. Aka away. Khan akawanik. Larry Kimura. Ach to us goon. We atchi tin. Joya wush jin to shut yaha yukatangi teen. Helchest chak ge aya kagach to ach. Eka cha akaya ye gach to sene. Ajawe we atchi aya kachlishi. Kanachawe ach to us agu dayach. Ya kledehin aya. Ja Juaya ja ach tu ye wuti. Ach eat uaha we atchi. One kanins ya tokaneich was satin aya ach yetki. Has khatlekuch. Ya dayach. Kachas atwashi. Achawe one kanins kun kachanik. Ya khatkach yetki. Kaututleshi ya atchi. Achit has wudashi. Ka hashagun. Ye away we melody ayach jiyutian. Kone a kaushahit. Dat yaksako wasaka kwashashi. Aka away jaye kugenki aya. Wush aya kajak. Achtunda tanitin. Sheet kakko wush kanachutu da atayukatangi. Akheutien kanak. Kakasan. Yewa hastu in yejechone yatein. Yateyach again, yateyach. Has koa. Has outlook ayin. We atche. Yata kwashe yanach kekwake. Oh, yekecha. We gao. Tleshkatin hasaku. Wasa atkakone yateyach. Ha shishko has do yukatangi. Has do tleshatin echiti. Ha shishko has yukatangi. Shugo achtla du guchayi. Tleshatin echiti. Achtla guchayi. Achoy ha shishko has yukatangi. Yewa a itch kingesti. Yisaku. Ha in yukanik. Itu ye yeti ha yukatangi. Itu ye yeti. Achoe we achiach to us a good yukatangi kayeti. Aka we ha yukatangi tleshkatin hasaku and wasa yak hasakaeta. Aka we kanak ach itwutishi. Ha yukatangi kenal sin. Ye awe we gao utusuku adatki. Wasa hasakaya ach hayukatangi. Kakone yu has outla atkitsu. Wasa hatu ke. Kaklein. Kashkawu. Kledehin ayash kashnik hatu asaku. Kautu shahit duch eidch. We gao. Keshtasa awa ach. Keshtasa. Weku achji aya kehuj. Steotin ka Kathy Ruddy. Duchant away wunuk. a kaushikit adasa ayach autuawus khatka kakwask. Wish kashnik du in ayak autuanik dakasa hatuasaku tua achi. Haina kawanik. Kash khat khatuwustriq. Ashkashnik aya kun skachlenik. Tlingit Tlingit we an katush hiti atin. A joy kadain adat YouTube the ton. Kleshach to wa oshko khan has khan katuye ti achis. Yata khaniyan, yata uhan, hachunkiyan. A joy kawa ak. A itchach atu a woos. Data ti nachsa hasyati. Tlingit atnesquini. Wasa shitzin hajidegach tuti. Aga awe haina kawanik. Shitzin de nyuche watan. Yisaku gwashi yisaku. Wasa wan kanin slakao de nyuche watanin. Gunalchish. Yawe yatayach. Aga we huchi ai. We keys aya ya u. Kaya du gukai. Tua ach we na dauka kach. Yatat. Huchi ai. Ach agak kwati. Chakleich. Kukakas ti Tlingit. Chakle awa ach. Chakle awa ach. Asa ach tu ke. Ya huchi ai aya kautusha hit. Hatu wasa gutsu kautusha hit tsu. Ako tat yin. Dakwudzigit. Dusha aya khanachwadichun. Aka hanakwugud. Ya achawe ach tu wasa gu. Tlitzin aya hat atuwatch. Tlitzin nawa hajit awati. Ya ache kahashil kohas. Hatachkankiyan. Yo etat yutachtatan. Where do we pico? Ito I guess a go to achi. Hechos a go gosh pause we recording. Hechas achwa woos hechwasa get oti. Jakut kalko aya. Hasawa achi. Just Johan koa. Achtoasagu. Yika achitawe kakwa ach. Just let's say. Yeah, Yisaku, ya idat gudach so watch. Wasa acht wu yuke ach eat has with the she. Ya Hawaiʻi ku. Wasa itu ja idat yuan. Dasadat yejachtune. Dasadat yukagachtutlaat. So we got some options here. I thought Wednesday would do a little bit of talking and then just some lessons. So we've got some things we just kind of been working on through the semester. Some things we haven't gotten to yet. So we started doing future verbs. We also started doing this intro to verbs where you're just sort of predicting a whole bunch of different kind of smaller patterns, I guess. And then there's the origin of copper. It's Juan Tlane's story that we're translating into Tlingit. And there's another story that I was working on called The Orphan, which we could sort of look at. But what do you folks want to do? And or do you just have any questions that we can sort of kick around a little bit?
Were you guys gone last night online?
Yes, we were. There was, the university had no classes because there was the Power and Privilege Symposium.
Well, if you wouldn't mind just taking a gank time, I grew up in Hawaii and we used the word piko for our navel.
Yes.
And that was just a very, very common word. But I assume that in your study of the Hawaiian language, you delved deeper. And I looked online and apparently there are, it's got a much deeper meaning.
Yeah, there's three. Well, there's a house has a piko, so there's an entrance to a house, basically right outside the front door. And piko is kush. It's the equivalent of kush, although it has different concepts in Hawaiian. But one of the things, like when they build a new house, they would put all these medicinal plants and stuff, and they would make this thing with this long strand that really symbolizes the umbilical cord, and then they will cut that with the adze, and that's the piko, part of the piko ceremony. And now the house is there's a ceremony, right? I mean, there's a whole big ceremony, but that's one part that happens. And so they do that ceremony every year at their language building. So it's like, we got a new group of students, so we got to do this again. So they've adjusted that ceremony, so it's an annual thing. And then they also call the piko just like the gathering. Usually there's a morning and an afternoon gathering at Navihi, which is their language medium school. At the College of Hawaiian Language, I think it happens 2 or 3 times a week, so it's not every day. But you gather, and then basically you have the males on one side and the females on the other, and then they have people who have different gender associations, and they just get to pick. But the one thing you don't get to pick is you line up in order of who has been living with the language the longest. So Larry Kimura, and then Pila Wilson, and then, and it goes from there. And Kawanoi Kamana, and it kind of goes from there. So that those are the big kumus, right? And then he told me, like, even if let's say you're a Hawaiian language teacher for like 20 years, but then you moved away, and then you left for a couple of years, you came back, and you apparently go back to the beginning of the line, right? And so it was really interesting. And we had kind of tried that here, but I think some people got a little upset because they just for a variety of reasons, because it's not a Tlingit thing. But then back to the piko concepts, it's really cool because you have 3 of them. So there's one kind of in your head area, there's one that is your belly button, then there's one in your genital area, and there's a different vowel associated with each one. And so when you use a first person possessive pronoun, the vowel you choose depends on how you're connected to that thing. So like this is your, let's see, this is kind of the spirit world and things that are out there. The umbilical cord is your ancestors, because that's where your mama fed you. And the groin area is your future generations, because that's where you're going to make them. And so it was really neat to sort of learn the depths of that stuff. And I said, I don't understand it, but they were showing us quite a bit. And so that was quite a few years ago too, but it was really fun. And that was good to see, because then even if they, like, one of the things, like one of the kids maybe got a part wrong or didn't give it the right level of enthusiasm, so they just stopped it. And they talked to them about what they needed to do, and they started over. And then they did like a traditional Hawaiian family thing. And the way they explained it to me is, in the start of the day, like a long time ago, everybody would sit down to eat, and then the father would speak first and usually say, okay, kids, what we're going to do today. And then the mom would speak next, and she would correct things and then also give the details of how they're going to get the stuff done. So she said, okay, you hear what your dad said? We're going to go get that kalo today. But yesterday you were messing around, you didn't work hard, so today you're going to really, and so the scoldings would come, and so they do that. And so usually a male teacher will speak first and will give a prayer, and then also give them some words maybe things to think about for the day. And then usually a female would talk and she would give them encouragement, but also give them usually the heavy corrections on you're using too much English, or you're making this thing sound like this thing. And so she would, and it was really neat to see them just really adopt a Hawaiian lifestyle. And then there's a whole set of prayers, which includes their sing hymnals, because I kept hearing Yesu, and I was like, oh, what's going on there? What's still going on? And then that's just how they say Jesus, you know. And so I was like, oh, Jesus is here? Oh, cool. And so, but it's a public school, but they could still do that because they say this is Hawaiian culture. So it was really cool.
Kunastish.
Oh,
Mahalo.
hey. Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Any preference? What do you guys want to do first? Go back to the intro to verbs thing. I think that was working pretty okay. Okay, off we go. So what I'd like us to do is everybody give it a shot, making a prediction. So there are 15 of y'all. And so that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna be predicting a command form, imperfective usually, first person, second person, third person, and then we're gonna be predicting the perfective, then the future. Just taking a guess. If we guess it wrong, nothing bad happens. And so this was the first one we did, which is they're all cha, to eat. So after eating, we're gonna drink. So here is this one. So here's what the theme looks like. There's an object, there's a subject. This one is a D plus D classifier. So we expect di or da. It's na. It's open, right? Just things to just look for. For S, to drink. Oh, it's an act verb, and it's also a zero act. So when it comes to the perfective, we should be expecting something specific with that stem. Looking at the classifier, we're gonna have da or di. Only options. It's gotta be one or the other. And only in the perfective will it be di. Everything else will be da. Okay. Who could tell me how to say, drink it?
Dana.
Idana. Okay, idana. There it is, idana. That's the command form for drink it. And if you've gone, try to wait a little while, let some other folks give it a shot. So how about, is there a question?
Is you drink it? Or is it something else? Why is that in there?
Okay, so let's get to, here's two things to know about the command form. One, there's usually not a pronoun for a singular version, right? Cha, nata, like there's no pronoun there, it's just gone. However, if the classifier is plus D, there must be a pronoun there. So we went from cha to idina. So a command form is always a second person, either singular or plural.
Oh, man.
The plural must always have a pronoun. The singular will not have a pronoun unless it's plus D. The other component, it'll always be minus I. And then there's a few rules that we'll figure out with, basically it's gonna be high if it's a zero, and it's gonna be low if it's everything else, long and low. Okay.
Where's the black thing? It's black. Can you see it? It's black on the black folder.
About I am drinking it.
It's black. It's a black folder. You see it? Khadana.
Yeah, well, khatana. Khatana, right? So now we're making a pronoun switch here. We've got the pattern, dana, right? You are drinking it.
Adana.
Idina, right? Exact same form as the one above it. We'll just get it from context, right? She or he is drinking it.
Adana.
Adana, right? Cha, I, a. Because there's an object there, the third person subject is always unmarked. The third person object is also unmarked unless there's a third person subject, then it changes to a. Ah. Okay, those are constants. Those have to be that way. No matter what we're talking about, imperfective, perfective, future, has to be that way. I drank it.
ʻŌlelo.
Yeah, na. Long and high, we know it's long and high because it's a zero. Zero conjugation, long and high perfective. You drink it.
Yidana.
You did not, right? Gotta keep it long. You did not, right? You drank it, okay? They, singular, drank it.
Odina.
Out and na, yeah, away, okay? I am going to drink it.
Kakodina.
Yeah, away. Kakwadina. Okay, okay. All the futures will be long and high. All the positive futures will be long and high, unless it's invariable. So like khan will always be khan. Everything else is long and high in the future. Okay. You are going to drink it.
Idana.
Kakidina or gakidina.
Oh.
And so it could be either one. This one, it could be, and this one could be kakidina. Gakidina is preferred in Teslin, but kakidina or kakidina, sorry, is they're totally just both fine everywhere else. Okay. They are going to drink it, singular. Aguchtana. Yes. Okay. So with the third person, you're going to have akwa and aguch. So akwa or aguch. If there is a consonant and a vowel in the classifier, da, sha, sa, sha, it must go guch right before it. It must go. Okay, aguchta, aguchsha, aguchsha, and anything else, it will be kakwa, right? So akwas. So if, you know, we'll see some examples of that.
I drifted off. Renee, could you do that again? The guch, if the shla and the duh and the sha. I'm sorry, but I drifted.
Da, sha, sa, sha. So any of those that have both in the future, if there is both a consonant and a vowel, then it must be guch right before it. So a guchta, a guchsha, a guchsa, a guchsha.
Clear as mud.
Okay. It's just a combination thing. Otherwise, you're going to get akwa, right? Okay, you okay? So now we're going to cook. Any questions? Everybody okay?
I have a question. Back on the you drank it. You drank it. I don't see a perfective marker in there.
Yeah, so the perfective marker is going to be you. After that is the subject I. So what you get is ye. So that's why it's the Y right at the beginning. So we kind of tend to write it as a Y with 2 dots and the letter U, because there are instances where it will change just to the letter Y, and this is the case right here. So we're going to get like w or ow, and this or dana, right, if we're from Teslin or Carcross. Chwadana, so that's the w. But in this case, it's ye. Because when it encounters that second person, which is either going to be I or ye, it'll become a Y.
I find the second person the most tricky.
Yeah, because it's like all of a sudden it's just switching. So for that second person, that's where the class of, or the perfective marker switches to a Y sound.
And they
So-
don't say chmadana.
No. So
Okay.
it has to go vowel, W, consonant.
I meant for I drank it.
Yeah,
It
no,
said chwadana, chmadana.
nope.
Nope. Okay.
The M, it must go vowel, W, consonant in the classifier. And then it will switch to an M. So oude, aushe, aushe, anything like that, then it's going to get amde, amshe, amshe. Okay, Johan. Cooking. So the other day we did like a whole million cooking verbs. So there's an object, a subject, S classifier, E. It's another 0. So in the perfective, we should be expecting it to be long and high. You have 2 options for your classifier, sa or si. It will only be si for the perfective in these examples. Everything else will be sa. How would I say, cook it? Command form.
Atsa'i.
Well, atsa'i would be cook. So I'm just telling someone cook. But
Sa'i?
cook, yeah, sa'i.
Sa'i.
Or sa'i, sorry, it is long. Yeah, sa'i. So sa'i is cook, cook it, right? So it all depends on whether there's something there that we're telling them to cook. Okay, how about I am cooking it.
Hasa'i. Hasa'i.
Chasa'i.
Hasa'i. Okay.
Chasa'i, right? There's no perfective markers.
No,
Chasa,
you're right.
right? So we should have sa'i all the way down here. How about you are cooking it?
Atsa'i.
It's the E. Yeah. They, singular they, are cooking it.
The E.
So there's a couple things that we gotta talk about here. The sa classifier. If it's the letter A, it's susceptible to get knocked out of there. There's a number of things that will knock it out of there. Irialis, if something comes up and touches that classifier, it's going to freak out and just throw that letter A right out. One of those things is going to be the third person object marker, So there's an object here, we don't see it. There's an object here, we don't see it. There's an object here and we see it because there's also, so it's going to be 0, sa, e. But because that there's nothing in between it and the classifier, we should get us e. The vowel gets knocked out of that classifier. And what does that? And so this is why, and there's other things that do that too, which is why you go from ausaku to k'awasku. It knocks it right out of there.
Can I ask a quick question?
Ah.
What's the rule for the second person when you with some verbs have yisa e or you might have yisa versus isa?
Well, issa is the imperfective, and we're probably going to run into yisa in the perfective.
Okay.
So that's what it's doing. So this is just saying right now. So right now there's none of those conjugation things are activated. There's nothing there. So this is just like chasachan, and so really in an imperfective, you get the most clear interaction between the object and the subject because there's nothing in between them, unless there's some thematics or it's kind of prefix in there. But otherwise, you know, so what you're going to do once we move it to perfective, now that you, we got to turn that switch, and then the y comes into play. And so we should see yisa-e right here, if everything goes to plan. I cooked.
Okay.
Kwasa'i.
Chosei, right? So these will all be se. Nothing can knock that letter I out of there. The letter A can get knocked out of there. Zeo says it's because it doesn't mean anything. It's just there so that we can get to the next sound. But this I means that the verb has happened. So we can't knock it out of there. You cooked it. Oh.
So when you're saying it, though, there's really no it, right? We're just making it sound better in English.
There is an it there.
There's an it, so we could substitute we could put a noun in there somewhere.
Well, no matter what you specify using a noun, and this is where Tlingit is different than English, because you could say it, but then you could also say I cooked crab, I cooked a hamburger, and then you don't have to say it anymore.
Right.
But in Tlingit, you have to always say it if it's there. But where it gets tricky is unless it's a third person, it just disappears. It's just not marked at all. And that's what gets us a little bit tangled in the brain, or brain tangled in the same net, however you want to look at that. So there is something right there, but it's just unmarked. So if we translated this, you're saying it, perfective, I, cooked. That's how it works. Okay. You cooked it.
Yisa'i.
Yisi'i. Make sure that I is in there. Yisi'i. Yeah, wow. They cooked it. Singular they.
Ausa'i.
Yeah, wow. And this one has an inland variation. Amsi'i. I'm gonna cook it.
Kasa'i.
Yeah, away. Kaklasa'i. All these futures are long and high. You're gonna cook it.
Gisai.
Yeah, away. Kakisa'i or kakisa'i. You got options. That could be that ga can just be a K. And that's something that's just kind of transferable. And in some cases, it's just it's an option, whichever one you prefer. But in some cases, for example, don't worry about that. So we have, so tlingit is like strong, right? So if you wanted, so this would be getting towards a command form, right? If you were just telling someone to kind of be strong. But then, so if I want to say, oops, come on, ʻŌlelo, you are brave. But if I wanted to tell you to be brave, this same verb pattern, how do I say it?
Okay, let's see.
ʻŌlelo. So this ga gets contracted to the letter K. And it's just something that happens, and that's what happens here. But there's some things in Teslin where most of the speakers, I think they prefer it just to be not contracted there, which is just interesting. It's just a dialect thing, not a right or wrong thing.
Could you say it with the K there? Une?
Kakisei. So, and it would, I think I'd run out of room, but that's what it looked like. Kakisei. And it's a total either or thing, whichever one you prefer. Singular, they are gonna cook it.
There's no A after the K. Kakisai. That A just gets out of there. Kakisai, kakisai.
So ga can contract to the letter K.
Okay. Okay.
That's what happens. And same thing when we see ʻŌlelo, which is why when I remember I asked Nora for that for a while ago, and then when I would show it to people, they're like, why is there a K? Like they would even have a hard time saying it. But it's just because that vowel before contracts it. And so that's why those are optional. Like same with this could be a KU, right? It doesn't change their meaning at all. Okay. They are gonna cook it. Singular they.
Wasa'i.
Well, so we've got this, we're gonna have sa, so it's gotta be that guchsa. It's gotta be one of those things. Yes, a guchsa'i. So if this wasn't, like if this was just the letter S, you would say akquas'i, akquas'i. Then you get the kqwa. But once you got this sa, sha, sha, da, it's gotta be guch right before it.
Yeah, you just said that, but it left my mind.
It's okay, it's okay. One time I was on the search board and we got in this big argument about whether we should vote to accept a report, and our lawyer said we shouldn't. So I was like, okay, then let's not. And everybody argued. We argued for probably 45 minutes. And people were like, this is how the A and B did it. It's good enough for them. It's good enough for me. I was like, it's not a big deal. Finally convinced them, don't vote to accept these reports. Because the lawyer said, if your president said, and you know, we should buy me a Porsche, that's what I think. And here's my report. And if you said we vote to accept the report, there's kind of a loophole where that president could go buy themselves a Porsche. And if you tried to like raise a stink, they'd be like, hey, we voted on it, you know. Not that that was going to happen, but there was that possibility. So we argued for 45 minutes, finally decided we voted to no longer vote to accept the report and somebody gave us a report right after that. What do you think happened?
Get to vote for.
You voted to accept their report. You betcha. So me and that lawyer, we just looked at each other and was like, so, it's okay. We're creatures of habit. Okay, so this was, I couldn't find a good graphic for watch it, take, and this is actually like take care of it as well. So I don't know if Mr. Laserbeam Eyes is the best graphic, but there it is.
Can I just back you up to the other sa'i? So at sa'i, at sa'i. So if I, and I'm looking at Eggleston's online verb list here. But if I want to say at hasa'i, I cook, I'm cooking. But I just realized, I think, last week in Zeus's class that that's not what it means, eh? Like it means I'm cooking something.
Yes, yes.
So,
The literal definition is cooking something.
but then all of a sudden, if it's at I'm cooking something, then it changes from a intransitive to a transitive. Is that? So I've always like found that confusing, how that verb is set up, eh? Because there is an object and a subject there, but you don't see that in the theme, eh?
Yeah, so let's see if I can, let me try and explain. We were just talking about this today as well, because yeah, there's quite a few folks that are in that class with Zeus, which is awesome. And then we're all working on these projects, and then we're talking about the stuff that he's teaching folks. So let me see. Oh, I'm going to have to do some things here. So basically, what I'm going to talk about here for a second is ways to kick the object out of there. Okay, chukde object, use scram, and here's my 3 ways to do it, and here's how I think about this stuff. And I'll preface all of this by saying I'm not a linguist, and so I don't always think about things like a linguist. I just think about how can I understand it and how can I teach it. And I draw lots. I draw lots. Like especially like I would just read so much stuff that Zeus would write and Seth Cable would write and that Jeff has written, and that Carrie has written. And when we all talk, I don't always agree with the things that I hear, but still, I just think about how does this factor into the way I can learn the language, use it, and teach it. So basically, some things are going to have an object in there, right? So something's going to happen to it. Someone's usually going to do something to it, right? For example, you can say atu. They are reading it. And we know that it's it because that would be khatu and itu. But once we switch it to the third person, we see that object switch over to the letter A. And it becomes that and that's the only way to tell sometimes if there's an object there, which is, or if there was some other verb, like there's a bunch of them that are really always going to be third person objects, right? It's not like, I guess I could say I'm counting you all, and that might work for this one. But so then this version is datu. So what we have done is we went from A0, technically 0 to, I guess I gotta make this one smaller. So we took that and now we canceled out the object. We said, get out of there. And now we have a subject, a classifier, and to. So the action here is to have it be plus D, kick that, and there's just a set of verbs, and we'll just have to remember which verbs do it and which way. And so it's which way do they kick the object out. And what this Dick Dauenhauer used to call this action focused. You're focusing on the action, right? So if someone says, what are you doing? Oh, I'm reading this book. If you're talking about some specific thing, then it's this one. What are you doing? I'm reading. Then it's that one, right? So in English, it's sort of just like you kind of just say the thing or you don't. It's not, doesn't take as much sort of mechanics, I don't think. So the second way is with ut. So for example, and this one I'll use so chacha, what are you doing? I'm eating it. So there is an it in there, right? Because this would also be acha for a third person. So for this one, and there's a set of them, cooking, eating, I'm sure there's others, but this one you change the subject or the object to something, right? Like at, and sometimes it has special meaning and sometimes it doesn't. Atsati, it's really something, right? And so I guess that one's not really the object, but so, and then if I said atcha, whoops, it should be like that. I am eating, right? So same thing. If someone's like, what are you doing? I'm eating it. Is there an it there? And so it depends on the context, right? Like, someone says, have you seen my yummy piece of fried chicken? Ah, ha. I'm eating it, right? And so there's this thing that we're talking about. And so this is the one where it switches to at. And this just, it's like a set of verbs. And maybe we can go through and make some lists of these things just so you can kind of mark them down. But both these two, they seem to follow kind of a pattern, which is by default, there is an object there and we have to do something to remove it. Because we're just talking about the action, not about what the thing is happening to. Okay.
But isn't ut the fourth person object there?
Yeah, ut is the fourth person non-human object.
Yeah.
And there are a couple of verbs where the ut, now it has a special meaning. Because if you said at khadana, people would be like, oh, well, I guess you're out at the bar. Because they would assume you're drinking alcohol. For some reason, there's some of them. There's another one that Kasech told me, which is atsagu, which I don't know how it works, but that's, well, sagu is joy, and then atsagu, I guess, is something that brings some people great joy, but then maybe they have a baby, right? So that's how that stuff works. I gotta be careful. One of my videos, one of my advanced Tlingit videos from like a couple of years ago, got flagged on YouTube for like, you have to be an adult to watch it now. So I kind of watched most of it. I was I telling bad jokes or what was going on? So this one might get flagged. Don't flag me, YouTube.
So what does atcha mean?
So atcha, there's two, it depends on the context. It could mean, if you say it as a command, it means eat something.
Okay.
Right? Or just say like, you know, like a kid is hungry all the time. So I just say, atcha, eat. Just eat. But cha would be eat it. Eat that broccoli, eat that whatever the thing is. Now there's a thing there. It's a specific thing. Otherwise, it's just eat. But there could be a version of atcha where it's like, they are eating it right now. Or they are eating. What are they doing? Oh, they're eating.
A non-human is eating?
No, just a third person.
Oh,
Just
a
a
third
third
person.
person.
I thought I heard fourth person somewhere.
That's what the ut is. The ut is a fourth person non-human.
And that's the thing that's being eaten?
Yeah, so so the literal interpretation of this is eating something.
Okay.
They are eating something.
Okay, good.
But and so for some of them though, we just write them as their own verb because that's the way. Sometimes you need to push that object out of there. Right? Maybe it's none of their business what I'm eating. Maybe it's none of their business what I'm reading. Maybe I don't want people to know. Don't flag me, YouTube. No, I'm just kidding. So the last type is what we call a thematic, right? And so athematic means there's this in there, which is unfortunately in the exact same spot, and it looks just like the third person object when there's a third person subject. For example, asteich, right? So they are fishing. So this one goes kind of in the reverse order, where by default, I don't think there is an object. Dancing, asteich, hunting, ashun. There's just that A built onto the front. Most of the body functions. Keep on censoring me, I'll just keep on talking about asteich, ashuch. What's the one other one? How do you say burp? Someone tell me, I forgot.
Is hot one of them?
That saw.
Yeah, autesichwa. Most of those body, hot is the noun, and then achich is the verb, right? So all of those have the on, it's just built on there, right? But, so here's someone, you're saying they are fishing. But if you want to say what they're fishing for, now, well, let me use a first person for this one. And I'm going to go hunting instead. So here I am, I'm hunting. But if I'm hunting something, what happened there? So now that now you can add an object, and now you have to, and so you got to push the object in there, kind of. So these are the three ways that you can sort of deal with objects in Tlingit, right? And so to kind of follow this model, so we had 0, 0, cha, and now we have at plus 0, 0, cha. So when we have cha, and now we have, oops. So this is how this stuff works, right? And so it's pretty complicated, but really you have these three things, and then you're just gonna have to remember which one is it, right? So weaving, sewing, and that's the difference between a case and the case. You're sewing something, or you're just sewing. If we're just talking about the action. So, and there's probably some study that could be done to look at these, like maybe these, I don't know, something to something, I don't know. But then you have these ones where it changes to ut, and that's how you could get rid of. And same with studying. I'm studying Tlingit. I'm studying math, Tlingit, whatever, right? So it's all about, is there some specific thing that you're identifying? And if not, then it switches over. So these are these sort of anti-passive things. I was trying to make like some illustrations of like someone with an anti-passive, like a protester sign or something. It's because I think it's a funny word. Okay.
Jeez.
Oh yeah, YouTube's down. Maybe I caused YouTube to shut down, because that was last night when they censored me. Censor me, crash your whole site. I didn't do it, YouTube. I'm just kidding. We got like billions of dollars. I don't want you coming at me. Okay. And Ask questions if you got them, but I think we'll move on to our next verb. Maybe this will be our last one. We'll do something. We'll look at a story or something after this, because I know we can get to the threshold pretty fast. Object, subject, L classifier, teen. 0 again, right? Similar pattern. So it's a look at, gaze at, watch the object, to watch, take care of, mind, look after. So this could be a number of different things. Like, you know, I think the default meaning is probably more closer to taking care of something than to sort of like, I'm watching you, right? But it could mean that as well. Like, I'm gonna watch you, see if you mess up. I'm gonna examine things, right? So you're gonna have sha or sh. It'll only be sh in the perfective. So if you tell somebody, watch it. Attain. Shatin. Like this one will be short though. Shatin. Okay. So that's the command form. I bring my puppy over to your house. I'm gonna say shatin. And I'm gonna leave because chewing up all my cords expensive. I am watching it.
Chatlatin.
Yeah, chashatin. With the imperfective, we just got to look at it. I don't know what to tell you. The stem variation, as far as I know, I don't know how to predict it. You just got to learn it. But there it is. It's going to be short and high. You are watching it.
Islatin.
Ishatin. Yeah, singular, they are watching it. Now, there's a L and an A in the classifier. Keep that in mind. Something's going to happen.
Ashtin.
Yeah, ashtin. Object changes to there's nothing in between that and the classifier. So it knocks that letter A right out of there. Chuk day. I'm the only A that could be here, pal. I watched it.
Washington.
Yeah, khoshatin. You watched it.
Yeslatin.
Yishitin, right? So yishe. We're going to get that I in there, though. Yishitin. Okay? They, singular, watched it.
Is it that a guchlatin?
It's for the future.
Oh, okay.
We'll go in the future, We're not there yet.
Islatin.
One more time.
Islatin.
Oh, there shouldn't be that in there.
How
So
about
it's singular.
Oslatin?
Yeah, aushatin, right? Choshe, yisha, ausha, right? Chasha, isha, ash. We're just pattern watching at this point and just taking some guesses, figuring this stuff out. I am going to watch it.
Koshlatin or teen.
Yeah, koshatin. The future's got to be long and high. You are going to watch it.
Those two G's.
Yep. What's up, G's? Hang on.
Gaqislatin.
Yeah, kashatin, right? Teen, get that teen on there. Okay. And this could be a K. This first G is like, I could be a K. I don't mind. Okay.
If it was a K, how would you spell it?
You would just change the GA to a K. Everything else would stay the same. Kakeshatin. Kakesha, kakesha. They, singular, are going to watch it.
Agachlatin. Agachlatin.
Aguch, aguch.
Agachlatin.
Yeah, away. Aguchlatin. Yeah, away. And don't worry, we're gonna kick it. We'll kick it next time we do this. But we're gonna kick it right out the door for now. Okay. Good stuff. Good stuff. You just keep trying. Like it's this combination of looking at what's under the hood and then just trying it out. And the patterns they do make sense because there's only so many things that could be there. But it's Tlingit, so there's a bunch of pieces, and then there's these other sort of moving pieces towards the end. So, okay, excellent work. So, I don't know. I was kind of looking at this story. I know I keep throwing projects at you, and then we kind of do a little bit here, a little bit there. We did a little bit of the puppets. We did a little bit of, not really, we haven't touched the origin of copper yet, but we'll get to it. But I'm trying to finalize, like, I'm going to just be selfish for a second. I'm trying to finalize like this book. So you have this little book of shorts. Well, they're not that short, but I guess kind of short stories done. And I like this one. This one, it's kind of a fun story. So what I'm hoping we'll do is we'll take turns. We'll read a sentence in Tlingit, and then we'll do our best to translate that sentence. And at the same time, we'll watch for any errors. There's probably going to be errors in it. So here we are. This is a story called Kuhaantí. Dasoe Kuhaantí
Orphan.
So this is a story called The Orphan. Oh, I got her name somewhere. Kadishan. I'll have to find it. I should have changed this right away. Ishmael Hope told me her name. I'll have to. Maybe that's it. Okay. Anyways, so she's the one who told this story, and then this was translated by Kuhaantí, Shakshani, March Dudson, Dastiya, Tleutu Coach. This is the last project I worked on with George and Marge. So here's our first image, house in the cold there.
Say Kadishan.
That's that?
Ida Kadishan.
Kashtana. Kashtana.
Kashtana, you do Sagan.
Sheesh. Yatake, kwash. Yatich.
Kashtana.
Sheesh. Okay, who wants to read the first? There's the end. Sometimes we do this and people just keep on reading. So just one sentence right there, right to that. Right to there.
Yatak kedain kusiat we wut ik away hastu kusti.
Sheesh.
The strong winter cold where people teak. What is that teak? Where people lived their lives.
Okay. So yeah, which was interesting. Like that's how they said it, because like you say konach, or there's a bunch of different ways. Like the winter was really cold. The people, it was difficult. Their life was difficult.
Is that the same verb for to freeze? Or what's it?
Yeah, but you would have the gle, would be it froze. So the classifier would change, but it's the same, and it's also there's another version of that. I think the same verb root, shetik, which means like, let's say this thing was like super full, and I had to really hold it so it didn't spill. So it's to hold something steady. So you could say ʻtuwushatich, which is like, how they translate that in the verb dictionary is harden yourself to bear it. Like I'm about to tell you something really bad. ʻtuwushatich. Now you got to get yourself ready. But I got nothing bad to say. It's okay. But and that's also how you could hold your. We got that also from King Gesti. So we could teach the kids ichus shatich, like hold yourself firm, hold yourself steady. Who wants the second sentence?
But Kanachnik klein katawagut kayanik jid kat kushuachich.
Okay.
Like a big sickness arrived to them. Is that katawagut?
Yeah.
So shuachich is like time passing, kind of.
Well, yeah, for something to come to an end.
Okay.
And especially when you put kut in front of it, that's really game over right there.
Mm-hmm.
So like shuachich, it doesn't have to be a negative thing, but if you're talking about a person, then you'd say they're gone. And this is one way, like most languages have these ways to talk around death, especially like catastrophic sort of things. And so Tlingit does that with the shuachich verb quite a bit, or kaudakit.
And with the k prefix, it's like it ended the people, kind of.
Yeah, so this one is the people. So kushuachich, the people died off. Okay. So the kut is to be lost. And then the kushuachich is people came to their end. So if they came to their end and got lost, like, yeah, they died.
Okay. So, and the people and the sickness that came to them kind of ended the people.
Yep. So this kat uagut, that's how a lot of bad things can come. Usually that's a pretty bad thing. And so you could say hastu kat uagut, like it came upon them, is really like sort of the visual. And then this jit or jidach is a really neat construction, because you could say zoom jidach with the chwet. I get tired from Zoom, right? Or ha, where you dashi glade ayakonachawechachwein at jidachawechat with the chwet. I just shoveled so much heavy snow, and now I'm tired. I got no fancy snow blower like Jeet Woo. Nobody come fix my snow blower like Jeet Woo. Okay.
Isha.
What's the next one?
Try it. Het gach woede yashk awa Jan has to cut uwe gut. Aga has uwe slach. I guess I don't know that yash, but I'm guessing it's the food ran out or something.
Oh.
Because hunger came to them. And then they starved. Is that?
Yep. And so let me get this. Hold on. So just so we could see it in the dictionary. So here's, we go down to the Y's and we see diyashq, scarce, rare, lacking. So then we'll go up to the S and look for scarce. And it's here. Money is scarce this winter, and then nothing was lacking. which is interesting, right? So then we get a couple things there. We get a negative form, and then we also get the decessive on there, right? And so some of us might know this one as well, like to say, ha, kechasakuan. I didn't know that, but now I do, right? So you can have a negative decessive, and that's sort of like, I used to not whatever, right? Okay. Oops. Yeah, aqahas uwashakh. So that's their starving. There's different ways. Like if you said shakh has to katu a famine came over them. There's different ways to talk about that, but this one is way beyond hunger. People can use it, like if you're really, really super hungry, you could certainly use that. Some people do it jokingly, but it could, in this case, like just by once we're seeing the setup of the story, like really hard times is what we're talking about. Okay, what's the next one?
I'd like to try. Yashat katsku sahanye dua saku. Wedu tla du ish du ikas. Kadu wushkiki da. Hasawe du nuk haskodik eat. Oh, that's in that song. Haskodik eat.
Probably should be and not da.
Okay. I thought it was that da I keep bumping into with Susie and Jimmy. No, I'm kidding. Okay. That girl was called Sahan. Her mother, her father, her brothers, and her twin left her. Huskodik. I don't know how to say that other than.
Yeah, well, and so this is the same thing we have in that song. Anak haskodik eat.
Yeah.
Which is they died off from it. So so the nak part is to leave someone behind. So you could say like I'm not going to leave you behind. You could sometimes they'll say hanakbugut. It's another way to talk about somebody passing away. And in this case, kaudakit. What this verb means is for like people to just move in a mass. So once you say do nakhas kaudakit, they all died off and left her behind. Pretty rough opening. Yeah, I'm sorry. Kind of a sad start. Let me, geez, forgetting the name. Let me fix that real quick. Okay, last sentence. What's that one?
I'll try.
Ah.
Tlingit shwudzini. It happened that she was alone or something like that.
Yeah. So this would be neich in other places. Okay. So this one, this is what they told me. You could tell if it's cake dialect, it probably came from George, right? And so usually if you're getting E and where other places there might be A, this is what he had for, she was the only one who survived.
It's almost like saved herself or healed herself. Is that kind of how?
Yeah. And so that auxenech or wusenech, that verb is really interesting, and you know, there's a lot of people who are asking about Tlingit and stuff, and once we start talking about like saving and healing, and that sanech is such an interesting verb, so interesting, because I could say like I'm going to save one of these cookies for you. So that's what that sanech could be. But I could say I'm going to heal you, like whatever thing could be going on. Our language healed us, our language enabled us to survive. And then you could say ish, the last person of my father's people, the lone survivor type of thing. So it could mean save, survive, heal.
And capture?
There's some, yeah, it could mean capture, which you know, and that one, like I want to see if there's a difference between that one or if it's the same verb, because like especially when like those animals come to get people, that's what that verb's going to be. Okay. This might be maybe the last one. We'll see. I gotta check this. Hold on, I gotta check something real quick. I think there's another mistake on this one.
Ya shatkatska sahan konach tutle an katletzak.
That's what that one should be. We just heard this one today. It was good. Okay. Kananik. Give us the translation.
That young gal, Sahan, very much kind and tachwasakutletzak.
Yes, no shit's ak. We heard it today at the end of a meeting. Someone said, they didn't say it to me. They said,
Bony?
it does, the root is bony. You know, the root is bone. Could be like bony, like if you had some kind of, like say you were eating like a grouse or something, had a whole bunch of bones. It's really bony. But without the I on the end, I think you could interpret it as kind of bony, but that's not what it means. That could be like the literal meaning. It means a hard worker. So if I say you're really ambitious. You really work hard. And it's just an interesting thing. It's one of those fun connections.
Oh, like squirrel. Okay.
Yeah, maybe like you just really I don't know, maybe like work themselves to the bone or something. Isn't that some people would say in English kind of? So it could be a similar type of thing. But it was, yeah, I had fun because we were working on a project today, and then the elder at the end said, and then they were asking about it. And then I like to tease people. I love to tease people. And so someone said, okay, well, we're not going to meet tomorrow, the next day, because we got the next 2 days off. So I said, you guys aren't hard workers. But you guys, I was talking about you guys. You guys are hard workers. Okay, sheesh. So I think this is a fun pace, maybe a little more digestible in some ways than the Origin of Copper one. We will kind of get to that, and we'll keep moving through these just different verb patterns and paradigms. Bring your questions. Bring questions if you got them. I do try to sit in on Zeosh's class, but the timing is really tough for me in terms of getting my kids into their classes and morning meetings coming up and stuff. But if there's things that we can help sort of work through that he's teaching, like from his grammar perspective, then let's talk about them. Monday, what are we going to talk about on Monday? We kind of had, so thinking Mondays would be more just trying to be in the language for a good solid hour, maybe, if we could pull it off. We got ideas?
What if we each say 3 things about ourselves and one isn't true?
All right, let's do that. 2 truths and a lie. Decha qeqa at. Qeqa qua shqaut legishi at. Quashketain shqaq gil. Oh wait, quashketain shqaq gil. There it is. It's gotta be plus D. Okay, okay. Gonna cheese you hon. Washikach tu steen kegig shqait legishi.
Goodness, cheese.
Ah.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Okay.
Cheers.
Gachtustin.
Computer barely made it. 4%.
Finish.
Gonna cheese.
Okay.
Cheese.
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 Ah.